What's up guys, it's Zoko, and today I wanted to talk to you about the controversial PvP scaling that is in New World. This is a topic that gets quite a lot of chatter, both negative and positive. Being completely honest, there are good points on either side to be made. With this video, I want to go over the history of PvP in general and highlight the New World arguments for all sides in regards to PvP scaling that I hope will give a more complete picture to the problem and what the final goal should be for the system in place. So why is PvP scaling even a thing? Well, in two words, that answer is probably quite simple: human nature. If there's ever the opportunity to be a douchebag, someone will pick up that torch and run with it. You see, ever since PvP has been a thing in RPGs, there has been griefing, or perhaps more specifically, weaker players being bullied by stronger, more prepared players. You can find the roots of this behavior in various MUDs. These are text-based games from the 80s that used to be played on like a bulletin board system, which must seem so foreign to most players these days. Some games like this allowed any player to be attacked when not in a town, or, pretty much at any point. You could even boil it further down to tabletop Dungeons and Dragons if you wanted, but griefing could generally be stopped there by friendly assault, and then taking your toys and going home. As time has passed, these systems have changed, with different games trying to solve griefing in a variety of ways. EverQuest only allowed PvP for players within a certain level range of each other to fight. This was done to specifically prevent the bullying of weaker players. In Lineage 2, a player would turn purple if they initiated combat, and anyone who killed someone who was not purple would turn red. Turning red had a much higher chance of one's gear dropping off for others to loot when they died. World of Warcraft offered different servers with different rules, and even on the PvP servers, the newbie zones were safe to play around in, as long as you were a part of that territory's faction. And as you went up in level and changed zones, you moved into contested territory where you were automatically flagged for combat. Elder Scrolls Online offers a specific massive zone for PvP between its three factions. That same zone has a small amount of quests to do in PvE style, but they are so minor and spaced apart, very few people ever come to this area for the quest unless they are trying to fulfill some specific achievement. And very quickly, that brings us to New World, who itself has quote-unquote solved the griefing mechanic on a couple different levels, supposedly. The first of which, and I don't hear any bad things about this one, is flagging. Flagging means you are participating in PvP willingly, and if at any point you don't want to be potentially attacked, like for instance if you want to go and chop wood in peace, you just unflag when you're back in town and you're golden. I don't think anyone has issues with flagging. It lets people play how they want, and I think that's great. There are a very small minority of people who just want to go out and slaughter everyone, whether they are fighting or not, but I believe everyone realizes why this is an issue. Also, there are definitely games where that type of behavior is okay. This game also offers quests where you have to be flagged in order to participate in them. These also give a nice chunk of rewards, generally for something that doesn't take too long to do, and you can repeat them. So while I can see where this gets boring, for players looking to counter those on the quests, it's easier to find them. Additionally, flagged players get a small XP boost when out and about as an additional incentive for taking the risk to stay flagged. And the final way, and most contentious solution that New World has done, is PvP scaling. Now, at the most basic level, this equalizes the playing field by adjusting damage and or armor levels of any player regardless of level so that they are more competitive, and therefore the more skilled player will be the victor. Now, it's way more complex than that, but that is the general idea they were going for. There are a few camps within this solution. Should PvP scaling stay? Should it be toned down a bit? Or should it be taken away completely? Now, I don't feel like there needs to be a ton said for the should it stay camp. The concern is that there will be griefing of those players trying to participate in faction events to support the war effort, and while you can easily say just don't flag up or war isn't fair or something like that, you are basically removing systems of the game that they will be able to participate in until they're competitive. It seems inevitable to me that this would happen if scaling was removed, and so I kind of look at it as an indirect removal of content for lower level players. I don't think New World is really at a point where taking away content for people, even indirectly, is a good idea. That is why the delay happened last year in the first place, after all. And while it's a small portion of the game that will be affected, it does a great job of breaking up the monotony that is, find this item, kill this many mobs, talk to this person 2 kilometers that way. Sorry you're on foot, by the way. There's a very clear argument there for more variety in quests. However, that's a whole other video on its own. But I digress. Even still, with scaling, it's not like the PvP playing field is totally fair. There is one advantage to being a higher level, and that is higher level players will have more skill points allocated within their weapon trees. Those skill points are the edge a higher level has over his lower level foe. Now, if that's adjusted and by how much is hard to tell, it's still way too early. But I do know my skill effects and modifications all seem to be in place when facing off against those of a lower level. I also think that people are playing PvP in this game much like other MMOs. Many are being far too aggressive and not valuing defense or their positioning as much, and I think that's a mistake. While certain weapon combos are clearly more prevalent than others, which to some degree is expected, many times in these games there is going to be a weapon combination or way to play a build that nobody has thought of yet, and it may even take a while after launch for it to be discovered. Personally, I enjoyed the PvP scaling system when I played in the beta. I was always somewhat frustrated when playing other games and someone who is less skilled could beat me by auto-attacking while sleeping at their computer. That used to drive me nuts. But at the same time, I wasn't so frustrated to just give up. I kept pressing on, and later on, when I was able to defeat those sleepy opponents, it felt far more rewarding. But this is something that will likely not be experienced at the same level in New World. But for that exchange, are we really going to be bringing in more players? Are we going to retain a healthy population? And if players leave, are they doing it for PvP scaling or something else entirely? The middling argument is that it needs to be toned down a bit. These are players who appreciate the scaling but see some inconsistencies with the way it is implemented. Many players have an issue with the fact that your character's strength comes from your player level and the gear you are wearing relative to your level. Meaning a level 20 with level 20 gear is going to be somewhat on par with a level 60 with level 60 gear, not including skill points, obviously. But if that level 20 with level 20 gear is up against a level 60 with level 50 gear, that level 60 is going to be in a tough spot for being geared up with under-leveled equipment. And what you would call the traditionalists want the system gone completely. They abhor the idea that a lower-level player with less playtime can participate in a fight against them competitively. Asmongold is among those who are against the system as it currently is implemented. Now, while he has problems with other parts of the game as well, he made waves by addressing the PvP scaling early on in beta. But while reports came out afterwards of the masses who supported the system, really taking a deep dive into the abyss that is Reddit and talking to people in my company, along with some one-on-one with people in the game, shows that there is a genuine concern about the current system in place. Gear scaling issues aside, certain weapons are significantly overperforming others. We should remember that there has been tweaks made from the previous preview test last year to this one. Notably, the Firestaff, Hatchet, and Musket have all had significant adjustments, and there likely will be more. I'm looking at you, Great Axe. This was a beta after all, but how much is really going to be addressed before the launch? Although the devs clearly showed that in a year they can add a respectable amount of mid and end game content. Maybe not enough for some hardcore players, but enough to keep many around long enough to add more and keep them interested. I hope moving forward that the same level of effort is spent on balancing the systems currently in place before adding a bunch more weapons and skills, which always breaks something. Being that PvP is such a core aspect of the game, whatever system prevails needs to be brutally honest about one question. Is this fun? And that question will be answered differently for everyone, but the goal is for it to be answered affirmatively by enough to have a healthy community, by MMO standards at least. I appreciate you guys watching, liking, commenting, sharing. Does wonders for the video and helps support me a ton. Thank you for your time. Have a great day.